Welcome to All Things Missional Relational with Joel. It looks like I have a fake background, but that's just my deck. But with that sky, totally looks like a Simpsons sky. Anyways, my name's Joe. Um, good to come to you. I just wanted to give you a peek into my life a little bit, kind of my walk with the Lord. I grew up here in Denver for the first 10 years in Edgewater on 24th and Harlan. And then my dad moved us to the western slope, a little town called Paonia. Beautiful place, if you've ever heard of it. Great place. Changed a lot since I was there. It's just gone through a huge change. But we worked on a working dude ranch. My dad was doing work. He was a builder and was doing work on and off, going back and forth to Denver, and decided that he would just move us up there. And so we lived in Paonia on a working dude ranch. And for those of you that don't know what a working dude ranch is, it was a real ranch. We had a lot of acreage. We grew hay, alfalfa. We had cattle and horses, snowmobiles, four-wheelers. So what we would do during the summer, during the spring, clear fields, clearing ditches, and then I say we, this was my dad. I was still a little too young. I helped out where I could. But then we would grow hay and alfalfa. My dad would be irrigating all first part of the summer long. And then we'd cut it, bale it, stack it, and then we'd feed cows during the winter. And then the dude part is we had this ranch that my mom was the cook at, and we would bring people over. Or they would sign up. They'd pay a lot of money to come over. And we would treat them kind of as ranch hands and give them that experience. So good cooked meals, but then they would be able to go on horseback rides. During the fall, we had the ability to guide them. I grew up buck hunting was the biggest thing there in third season, which was awesome. And then in the winter, snowmobile tours. So just got to do a lot of that. So a great place to grow up. So then when it was my freshman year in high school, I accepted Jesus into my heart because my brother had started going to church with his then girlfriend, now wife of, I don't know, 18, 19 years, somewhere in there. And so I started tagging along. And I had learned a little guitar from my grandpa. And when I walked in, they were setting up the band, like the youth group band stuff. And I just started helping. So I became like the setter-upper of sound equipment for them. And one day they didn't have a bass player. And they're like, Joe, do you know how to play bass? And I was like, well, I've never played bass before, but I know a few chords. He's like, oh, if you know the chords, the bass root of those, like, you can play bass. So he taught me bass that afternoon in about a 20-minute session, and then I jumped in, played bass for the youth group that night. And basically from my freshman year through till 2011. So 2003 to 2011, I was playing worship, leading worship. A lot of that was with my wife, Sarah, which was then my girlfriend, Sarah. She was a freshman in high school. I was a senior in high school, so robbing the cradle there a little bit. But hey, look, now we've been married 13 years as of yesterday, so congratulations to us. Happy anniversary, babe. So here's the thing. This is why I'm saying this, is throughout that time, I grew up with what I would say was a very anecdotal, say the right words, do the right things Christianity. My theology was if I do the right things, if I am enough, then God will reward me, God will love me, God will give me favor. And that's absolutely wrong. And those aren't bad things in and of themselves, but it's not the God we serve. And so I felt like I had to, going back to the analogy of a field, like we had to irrigate those fields. We had to tend to those fields. We had to treat them in a way that would foster growth. And what I didn't realize is in Christianity, God calls people as barren fields all the time. God calls people who don't have their ish together all the time. And he doesn't want us to be perfect. He doesn't want us to have everything figured out. He wants us to rely on him, and he wants us to give him his all. He wants us to worship him. He wants us to follow him. He wants us to be kind and love our neighbors and then love him. That's what he wants from us. And so what I didn't realize was there's these things called spiritual disciplines. I was going at my faith on a, hey, what does my youth pastor do? What is everybody else doing? I'm going to mimic that. And again, I did a lot of things in the name of the Lord. But what I realized was I was slowly burning myself out on a weak, shallow faith. And it wasn't until 2014, when I'd been working in Christian higher ed, teaching many chapels, leading worship all the time, that I realized that I am completely not enough. And that's completely okay. And I had I had someone speak this over me as well, but it was during kind of this understanding of what spiritual disciplines were. But she had this vision of me just crouched down as a little kid and God holding my head in his hands. And that wasn't like, it wasn't like him comforting me. It was him like saying like, yeah, I got you. Like, you're just a little kid and I got you. And all you have to do is let me love you. And that's paraphrasing that extremely much. But what I realized is the spiritual disciplines are tools that help cultivate your spiritual field. And I don't mean spiritual in the way of that sounded weird. So it helps you develop your understanding of who God is and who you are. And so Richard Foster writes a book on the spiritual disciplines, and there's kind of three breakdowns of the spiritual disciplines. There's inward, outward, and corporate disciplines. And inward disciplines would be meditation, prayer, fasting, studying. Outward would be simplicity, solitude, submission, and service. And the corporate would be confession, worship, guidance, and celebration. And Richard Foster writes this, kind of about superficiality. Superficiality is the curse of our age, the doctrine of instant satisfaction in a primary spiritual is a primary spiritual problem. Let me read that again. Superficiality is the curse of our age. The doctrine of instant satisfaction is a primary spiritual problem. The desperate need today is not for a greater number of intelligent people or gifted people, but for deep people. Meaning, we don't need a bunch of people who are intelligent. We don't need a bunch of gifted people. We need people who want to be served and loved by God and in turn do that to other people. That's what he's saying. And so kind of ending with Psalm 42, it's a description of our longing for God. As a deer longs for streams of water, so I long for you. And what that has meant to me in my walk with Christ is I don't have it all figured out. And there's several things that help me cultivate a field. Just like if you tried to build a house with nothing but a wrench, you probably could get somewhat far, but it's going to take you a lot of time and you're going to beat yourself up. Where if you had the right tools, you'd be able to build a house. Same thing with our spirituality. Scripture is full of beautiful moments, but there's different ways of reading Scripture. And there's different ways of praying. And I encourage you guys to dive into those. Richard Foster's in a thick book. You'll never get through it in probably a coherent span of time. It's just deep, it's thick, and it takes time to digest. And so I would encourage you to pick up a book on silence and solitude, pick up a book on meditation, pick up on a book on what it means to meditate on the things of Scripture and the things of God. And then practice some silence. That's hard right now, right? There's so much going on that demands we say something. And I think those are good things, but I also think it's okay to be silent and kind of process some of those things and then make a conversation piece with other people about what's going on. So it's okay, right? In a world that says that we can't be silent right now with what we believe or what we don't believe. I think there's a miss of we have to say something when we don't have it figured out yet, and it's okay. It's okay to take that time in Scripture and digest and be with the Lord. That's not being silent for a time. That's being silent for your own spiritual goodness. So, I hope you guys are doing well. Happy anniversary to my wife. 13 years seems crazy, but we did it. 5 years, or 5 kids, 13 years, 5 houses. I don't know. or crazy, I guess. Love you guys. We will talk to you and see you guys later. August 2nd, we can see each other in the building. How cool is